we have the one and only firebrand politician, the one and only Steve Mbogo. He's in the building with us. Karibu sana Mesh.
Asante.
How are you doing this morning?
I'm easy.
I've seen you everywhere, bro.
Excuse me, unasema I'm Gucci.
Uko hey, no ma, what? You're Gucci? Nice one, maze. So there's a lot that's happening in the country, maze. Yes. Lakini pia Africa. Unajua leo ni Pan-African Tuesday.
Yeah, man.
And before we talk about elections will go down in South Africa, because niliona hizo results zilikuwa very interesting. I didn't expect Malema to perform like that, but we'll touch on that in a bit. Big conversation ni historia, the Kenyan citizens and the police. Yes. There seems to be some disagreement, deep lying issues between these two people, the citizens and its police. Now, me personally, I appreciate the work that the police do. Naona kuna obviously many of them are very professional, lakini pia kuna sasa wale the rotten tomatoes. Obviously, I'm also referring to a situation really happened between Ian Njoroge and Ole Karao. Yes. What do you think is going on between Kenya police na Wakenya? Kwa sababu hizi mashida by this imeanza, I mean, si kitu ya juzi. Yeah, we've seen the recordings even on social media of Kenyans fighting with their own police.
Now, you see, this is not something new. This is something that has been happening for some time, the friction between the citizens and the police. And one thing that Kenyans need to know, number one, police ni raia.
Kweli?
He is one of us. And his main obligation is to foresee our security. He's also a leader. You know, people mistake leadership to only politicians. Yeah. A policeman is also a leader. But you see, the fundamental key and the problem arises because of the systems or the policies put in place, or rather the system in itself. I insist every day that in a country where the top leaders of the country do not follow the rule of law, then what makes you think the normal citizen will follow the rule of law? You see, if I as a Kenyan open up the newspaper every day or go into any mainstream or newsstream media, and the first thing I see is blatant corruption, misconduct by politicians, abuses from top politicians. So how do we expect the common mwananchi to respect the rule of law? So this is not just a matter of the citizens and the police. It is the mirror that they see from the top leaders in this country. Mirror effect. You know, we have to, where Kenya has reached today, we have to try and understand the root causes of our problems.
In a trigger, what's triggering?
You see, the problem with this country is we react to consequences. We don't want to know the root cause of our problems. But it begins with the policies and the system that is in place today. That is why Kenyans are fed up. You know, that is one of the few that was captured. We've seen scuffles between citizens and the police. Some the police fighting citizens, some the citizens fighting the police.
The army.
Yes, and today a normal Kenyan will tell you at the end of the day, hata wakinishika watanipeleka kotini, nitalipa bond nitoke.
Utatoka. What will you do? Shoot me if you want.
And actually there's something that I saw, and it was quite disturbing. If you watched whatever the young man did, Ian Njoroge, it is not right. Yeah. But if you look at the reaction, especially when the court case was going on, I remember watching the lawyers of the police claiming that, you know, the police are not ready to safeguard Ian simply because he committed the offense. And they're urging the court not to give him bail because they cannot guarantee his security. Sidhani tumefika hapo as a nation. Sidhani tumefika hapo as a nation.
Yeah.
You see, now when it reaches that level, you're trying to suggest a level of total control or anarchy. Let us speak the truth. You see, the reason why we have the rule of law is to ensure that we follow the rules as enshrined in our constitution. Now, the young man committed an offense. He went to court. Now, apparently he was beaten, he was manhandled here and there. And I don't think that should justify him not being able to be given bail. And again, let's go back to the question, where did we go wrong as a country? The young man is only 19 years old. But when you look at that young man, he is a bitter young man. So we need to understand where the problem begins.
Apparently, Peli Lenolo Karawati alishikwa a couple of days after for engaging in robbery with violence, him together with 8 other police officers.
Yes.
So do you think Ian was actually right? Maybe Al-Komesama jumped on it because this guy was asking him for money. He was trying to bribe him.
Yes. So that's why I'm saying, you know, we only react to consequences. The only thing we can see is Ian punching and kicking the cop. We cannot see the event prior to that eventuality. Now, all this goes back to the leadership of the country. I'll tell you the truth.
Really? In what sense?
Leadership in a country begins from the top. And in any scenario, that's why you're telling me even that cop was inducted for robbery with violence. You see, this country is running into a country where lawlessness is going to thrive. Because it's evident that in this country today, the only thing you need is money. You don't need to follow the law. Because when you see a young man get angry to that level and decide whatever shall happen and fight a cop, then we need to sit as a country and even look into mentoring and speaking to this young generation.
What about the angle of wase kusema ni vile economy iko ndio inafanya watu wako frustrated, and so Kenyans are easily angered and easily triggered to even kill, maybe ama just assault?
No. From time immemorial, tangu the world ianze, shida ijaisha. So it's not new. I keep telling Kenyans our biggest problem is not even the economy. You and I know that any of us, at one point in life, you go through difficulties. Yeah. And you find a way of coming out of it. So the issue of economy, as Kenyans, we can come out of it. But what about the issue of losing our country, our morality, our sovereignty, our unitedness, our togetherness? Those are things we cannot buy again. We cannot bring it back. Those are the issues we need to discuss as a country. A system that lacks moral, that lacks direction and a sense of belonging is a system doomed to fail.
Like this one, Steve, at JSS tutor sacked 2 days after calling off strike.
Yes.
Can you imagine?
Yes.
That's sad, man. At thousands of junior school teachers on contract have been sent home 2 days after calling off their strike. The letter issued by the TAC cite professional misconduct as the reason for the termination of the contract.
Yes.
Morals.
So, I'm saying, as a country, we need to look at things head on. You see, the problem is Kenya has become a country of escapists. We escape from the reality. Na tunapenda story. Tunapenda story. As in, we just
Ruto atafanya, Raila alisema.
The best thing a leader can do, or people in leadership can do, and when I talk of leadership, I'm not only talking of politicians. We have leadership is in different spheres. I've even said that our policemen, they're also into leadership.
Yes.
We look up to them. It's only these days that we don't acknowledge them as leaders. I remember when we were growing up, my friend, leaders, a teacher, an engineer, a doctor, a police officer, a pastor, an imam. Those were the leaders in the society.
Those were the faces of the society.
Yes, they were the leaders of the society.
Nowadays, they are not.
And they will shape the thinking.
Really?
Today, leaders are people with money. That's the biggest problem.
True.
So we need to understand that the moment of truth is here with us because we live under the third industrial revolution, which is the revolution of internet of things. One of them being internet communication, where information is at our disposal. Today, you look at the Kenyan systems, most of our systems are being run down. And when you look at them critically, all these systems are being run down intentionally. Now, when you talk of systems like the education system, health system, and all this sacking without proper procedures, there is a bigger intention. I remember a month or two ago, I was here and I told you, there is a very big global agenda. And those are the people driving our country. And they're talking of building back better a society, what they call sustainable development goals. And the simple policy, when you want to build something back, first you have to destroy it. And that's why every department, all our systems are being broken down in ways we cannot understand.
Is this a Kenyan situation or an African situation or a global? This thing for systems running down.
It is spearheaded globally by what you call the globalists. But you see, they chose on Kenya to be the pilot country. Whether we like it or not, it's here with us. It's here with us. The New World Order agenda implementation in Kenya has been chosen to be the pilot country.
Yo, Steve-O, like where you seated, manze, history, like we signed to NATO.
Yes.
Knowing very well,
NATO
ni fight kubwa sana inaendelea katikati ya Russia na China.
Yes.
So tumechukua sisi hapo ndio mavijana wa kurushango pale mbele.
Russia and America.
How do you fight si tunaingilia wapi kuongea huko?
That's what I told you. You know when President Biden announced that we are an unmember NATO ally, I told Kenyans there are a few things you need to expect. Number one, Be very ready to be used as pawns for the proxy wars. Number two, expect those people to put one of their some and most of their biggest military facilities, not even bases. They already have bases, facilities here. Number three, be ready, and Kenya is prone to attacks. That's why now they're already telling you will be our ally, so that in case you are attacked, we can help you. That's the same thing happening with Ukraine. Now, when you look at Africa today, I said it before, majority of African countries, we're talking about 85 to almost, now they're going close to 90% of African countries have decided to move to the east.
Yep.
Those people have moved to Russia and China. And when you look at even East Africa in itself, we've been left alone. A week later, we are now told the Kenyan forces will be involved in the Yemeni Houthi war. So we are entering and indulging in wars and conflicts that has no benefit to us.
For real.
Now, when you talk of the biggest issue that has always been ongoing, and America is pushing the issue of Haiti, we are being pushed to move to Haiti, but in reality, it's like our leadership do not understand the main interest in Haiti. Haiti is a very wealthy country.
For real.
And an organization like the UN has been there from 1986. Those people have never seen peace. And that's why they are saying, we don't need anyone from outside to come and help us. Haiti, apparently, has the largest deposit of a mineral called iridium. A kilo of iridium is worth about $45 million per kilo. Haiti in itself has gold deposit of a minimum $20 billion. Haiti in itself has copper deposits of about $8 to $10 billion. Haiti in itself has deposits of about $120 billion. But we are using our children, our sons, as pawns to go and fight these proxy wars.
Before we talk about the international powers, these superpowers and their involvement, the interest in minerals, for example, in Africa. Nilikuwa nachikata the other day, our president alikuwa looking for South Korea, and one of the main conversations to South Korea walikuwa nasema, it's almost as if they're interested in the minerals. They're getting into this conversation in Africa. But you mentioned earlier systems being run down. I want to just reflect on the elections that happened in South Africa, right? We're seeing how the economic freedom fighters really performed. This is a Pan-African party. Now they came in fourth. This is Julius Malema's party. They came in fourth. Were you surprised?
I was not very surprised.
Because they've been pushing the Pan-African agenda.
Yes, but you see, when you talk of the reality of a country like South Africa, 90% or 95% of the economy is controlled by the whites. You see, the white man, the leader of the DP party, he came second. You see, it's about interest. And when a nation goes to a level where there is no reverse, I told you there are things you can reverse. But when you lose an identity, your identity as a country, there are things you cannot reverse. And they should expect in the next election, maybe the white man will be number one. Yes, that's the reality. Because what do you need in politics? 3 vital things you need to win any election. Number 1 is numbers. Number 2 is money. Number 3 is brains. Don't the white people in South Africa have those 3?
So far they have.
Of course.
Now, what's interesting? Speaking of systems, akukukuwa na allegations za kurig. They were saying this is not an unfair, whatever. It was the people who duly chose these leaders. And clearly a reflection of, ukiangalia vile EFF will perform, it's a reflection of the will of the people. What can we learn, for example, from South Africa's experience in these previous elections?
Now,
as Kenyans.
That goes back to the key fundamental thing that a country needs to invest in, and that's called political literacy, or rather civic education. When you look at the statistics of the voting in South Africa, when you look at states like Cape Town, where it's white controlled, the voting pattern, about 97-98% voted. But when you go to these regions that are controlled by the blacks, they did not vote. And that is what happens in this country. Remember,
that's interesting.
I keep saying every day, young people complain every day in Kenya that they're not involved and they don't belong anywhere politically. But they do not vote, and they don't see the reason for voting. A time has come where Kenyans must understand the importance of a political process. It's very important. In last elections, you're told 8 million Kenyans did not vote.
Did not, yeah.
Another 8 million had IDs, but they did not take the vote. They did not register to vote.
Yeah.
By 2027, we'll have another 4 million who've cleared Form 4. So that's 20 million. So change begins with the civic education to understand the importance of rightful leadership in your country.
Thank you.
Don't complain and you've not even voted. You're not in the process. And don't wait for them to preach hope. They'll never preach hope for you. Especially this young generation Z, I'll tell them every day. The biggest and the senior-most politicians in this country do not even understand the language these people are speaking. They do not understand their problems. I'll tell you. They do not, it's about evolution. The minds, they both come from different schools of thoughts. So it is the task of young leaders like me and you and others who have the patriotism in us and love this country to speak to these young people and tell them that their non-involvement in leadership in the political process is what is costing us. Now, look at, go and read about the reaction of South Africans. Many are saying, if we wish we knew, we would have voted.
Apparently.
The process is gone already.
Hold it right there. Honorable Steve Mbogo, Buddha, Pan-African Tuesday. It's all about state of the nation. To Kirudi. Some time back, the president said, there's nothing like taking African heads of state, putting them in a plane and sending them to some Western nation. Lakini, alienda so look South Korea together with 48 other African leaders.
Yes.
Now, Kenya knows the hypocrisy by our president. Yeah, we don't even understand him, so we'll try and analyze whatever happened at the South Korean African Summit. Yes. Of course, hanging out with the one and only Honorable Steve Mbogo. Tunaangalia some of the top stories in the country. The recent one being ile trip yenye Prezo kwa kimekwa trips, and now he is going to Italy.
On Friday.
Two are very dangerous. Na like. Now, let's talk about the South Korea Africa Summit. Yes. It happened in Seoul some time back. Na nilikuwa na chiki Prezo alikuwa nasema, no, this is even before he went to South Korea. Ati hakuna venye African heads of states were going to be bundled in one plane. Tunapelekwa sijui kwa one of these superpower countries to be given an agenda. Alikuwa nasema if a conversation has to happen, afadhali hata tutume an EU representative aende pale aongele African heads of states and come back over here and tell us wagwan.
Yes.
Now my question is, by the way, when our president went to Seoul, he met up with 48 other African leaders. My question is, Honorable Steve, because I know you're very rather with these type of vibes, specifically governance. Is there any advantage of going to all these summits zenye prezo na kuanga invited really? Because maybe atuangalii kitu vile anaicheki.
You see, there's a law under the supreme law of the land that says, he who feeds you controls you. So we as Africa and our African leaders has confirmed to the whole world that we are beggars. You hear them speak, ministers, the president, they say we go out there to beg. I had the Minister of Agriculture the other day saying we should not make him go begging for food again. We've become beggars. Kenya has become a begging nation, which is very sad. But the issue about our president, I think as a nation we need to discuss. I think we need to ban him from using a microphone.
Enough.
No. Where it has reached, at times I feel for him because when you talk of double speak, it's an understatement for him. Because today he will say this, 2-3 days later he will say a different thing.
Yes.
So I think maybe it's the microphone phobia or the microphone rush that drives his sentiments. Or maybe he sits and remembers, what I said was not right. But you see, the problem, I said again, we live in the information era where anything you say, whatever goes on the internet, is always there.
The internet never forgets.
Never forgets.
People will refer. The reason why you've asked me that is because of his earlier sentiments he lamented.
Exactly.
He said a time has come where we cannot be bundled in buses and move. But you see, we are all beggars. African leaders have decided to be beggars. And we all have different interests. As Africa, we don't speak one language. Yeah. We are not united. So everyone goes and speaks on his behalf. Kenya will go and discuss about IT, for example, because I hear that is the biggest thing, achievement is gotten from there. Maybe Tanzania will go and discuss about the port. Ethiopia will go and discuss about energy. Different. We all have different interests. And that's where we are. I said, where the world of today has come to, we should not be escapists and escape from the reality.
You know, it's interesting unasema hivyo kwa sababu nilikuwa nacheki Prezo akibonga na Wahiga Mwaura on BBC.
Yes.
Na alikuwa anasema Wahiga, don't ask me that question. Wahiga, I know what you're trying to do.
Yes.
You're trying to get something out of me so that you can... Is it a case of Kenyans getting our president out of context? Maybe misquoting him. Kwa sababu, like you said, the president shouldn't come next to a microphone.
Yeah.
Many times, hata kabla history ya kwenda, talking about African heads to say it's going to abroad.
Yes.
Is it a case of a communication breakdown? Or maybe we just don't get him?
No, it's not a communication.
And how can he sort it out?
No,
what can he do to once and for all correct this
No,
thing?
you see, I said we don't need to escape from the reality, and we need to understand people. That maybe that's his weakness. Let me tell you, people have different conditions.
Hey.
No, it's true.
Okay.
People have different conditions.
It's true.
Even the condition of lying is a disease. It's a proven it's a disease where people or conditions like bipolar, where people forget what they said and they'll come back and say something different and maybe correct themselves. So we need to have that discussion, whether we should limit his way of communication and bar that microphone, or we should find a way of getting the people who, the guys in charge of his communication, so that he can limit whatever he says, because those things trickle down. I met a young man, and I needed him to do some little work for me. A young guy. I was trying to empower him, about 18 years. Mm-hmm. And when he gave me his math, I realized he had given me math more than the amount he needed. In short, alikuwa amenigonga kidogo. Nikamwambia, but hapana, you didn't do this part. Why are you charging me for it? And he told me, unajua bro, siku hizi Kenya kudanganya si vibaya. And then I asked him, what do you mean? He said, si hata prezo wetu udanganya. Are you getting that point?
Oh my God.
And that is one person who said it. Now, how many people have that culture? Today, in this country,
90.
We are preying on ourselves.
Yeah.
From fake oil, cooking oil, to fake fertilizer, to fake
Poison
everything.
sugar.
Even to the petrol stations. Today you're seeing people where it's either the petrol is mixed with water, and if it's pure petrol, when you want 1 liter and decide to put it in a container, it's half a liter. So lying has become, it's normal now, That's Kenya for you.
Speaking of lying, unajua watu sahi ni kama watu wa trusting hata kitu yenye Prezo sema.
Yes.
Hata hapa mtaani.
Hata kwako.
I don't trust myself.
Unamwambia kuzadani. Utanikujia na sosi. Unamwambia baba, kama ndakule. Afana kuuliza. Ukweli.
Exactly. My question is, what are the dangers of Kenyans not trusting what their president says?
You see now, I've told you the biggest thing that is replicating. We are now preying on ourselves. Everyone is adapting his way of now surviving in this country, because you don't know what to trust and what not to trust. But that is wrong, because I said the president of the country is the key leader of that country, and he acts as a mirror to us. Everything we do resonates and revolves around how the presidency is portraying to us.
Lawlessness.
So ukipata kijana anapiga polisi, usiulize kwa nini polisi anapiga mtu ama mtu anapiga polisi. For them it's a non-issue.
Hey.
Because if the senior most officers and officers in the country do not follow the rule of law, how do you expect the common citizens to follow the rule of law? That is simple. Ni kama kwako kwa nyumba. Kama baba ufuati sheria, how do you expect the kids to follow the law of the house? If you say there's no walking in the house with a carpet, na baba unaingia na carpet na imejaa matope, how will you tell the kids not to wear theirs? Utasema lakini si dadi wewe umevaa. It's simple. It's simple.
Be this example.
Yes, set a good example.
Ali ulikuwa na bonga story ya Haiti, how Haiti iko very resourceful.
Yes.
Nini kitu tumejua, Batman has been pushing the idea. Okay.
Pan-African.
Yes. And they are our brothers.
Yeah.
And actually they are saying,
even I was telling that guy here, wacha kushukituambia hapa tunaenda kuweka peace huko Haiti. Tunaenda kuua wa Afrika.
Yes.
What's his name by the way, our brother? Kenyans for Haiti.
Edwin. Key something.
Nikireflect na history our president going to the South Korea Africa Summit, nilikuwa nasikia conversation na clearly these South Koreans are really interested in the mineral conversation. Ukiangalia venye all these things that are being pitched to African heads of states wakiendanga majuu kwa avoided Africa's judin. Should we be concerned sisi kama wa Kenya? Are we selling off our country to these globalists? Back to you. I know you've been a big champion of this type of vibes.
You should be talking of ways of reclaiming back, because they're already sold. Yeah.
This country's gone.
Who are the largest owners of land in Kenya?
The UK guys.
The British.
tuweke vile iko.
Now let's talk about minerals.
Hey.
How are minerals formed? Minerals are formed due to differences in temperature and pressure in the ground. Anywhere there is a heated activity or pressure activity in the ground, there is creation of minerals. What people don't know about minerals grow.
They grow, yeah.
That's why we have a periodic table. If you look at the periodic table, you know, all metals have different elements. Elements have different numbers. Like gold, I think, is 89. There's lead, 87.
Silver, 924.
924. If you add an atom or two atoms of lead to lead, it turns to gold.
Yeah.
So it evolves. Naturally, it occurs because of the differences in temperature and pressure. So what are these differences? No, what are these activities that create pressure and temperature? Number one is volcanic activities. Number two, we have boiling lakes. Number three, we have activities like geothermal. Okay. So ask yourself, where do we have these activities in Kenya? Let's talk about volcanic mountains. Where do you find volcanic mountains in Kenya? We have Mount Kilimanjaro. We have Mount Longonot. We have Mount Kenya. Yeah. Activities of heat, we have geothermal in Naivasha area, and Bogoria, Kuresoi, all those areas. You understand? All those areas. So ask yourself, where do the British own land?
Those highlands. In fact, they are called,
keep talking.
Up to now, they are called the White Highlands.
Yes, the White Highlands.
That's true.
Where do the British own land? It's around Mount Taita Taveta. That is around Mount Kilimanjaro, around Nanyuki, like Laikipia area, around Mount Kenya, and the Naivasha area around Mount Longonot.
Up to Nanyuki Pali.
Yes. So why are they holding on to that huge chunks of land for the last, let's say, close to 70-80 years, and we're talking of 4-5 generations that are owning? It's because
like
of
400 centuries.
It is because of the minerals that are below there.
Hey.
Let me tell you, we have to speak about these things. This is our country. Now wafanye vile wanataka. This is our country.
Ni high time we need a conversation.
And you know, all this, when you go in all those areas and you hear these names in the name of conservancies, they're not conservancies.
Yeah.
We want to know what is below there. And I'm putting the Minister of Mining, Mr. Mvurya, to task. I want him to just go and do a simple base metal element test in a place like Magadi here.
It's a no trend.
People are lying to us that they are mining sodium bicarbonate salt, while they have a private railway line from Magadi to Mombasa. What are they carrying? Go and just do a basic test for base metals. Then you'll see what's inside there, because I know.
South Korea walitupatia loan 485 million.
Yes.
238 inaenda kwa Konza Digital City for further expansion and all those manenos. How can we utilize this money well? Ndo hata pia in future tunaweza avoid the pitfalls of debt, if I can put it like that.
No, but you see, there's one thing I've always said is purpose. Number one, what is the purpose of this money? Why do we seem to have an unsatisfied appetite to borrow, and yet we cannot account for what it's doing? And number two, we cannot even state to the people of Kenya the guarantees given against these loans. These are the conversations we need to be having. Yeah. Should not be asking people how to utilize that money. Okay. We know very well the money is there to be, it's up for grabs. Let's be honest. How much money has this government borrowed since it came in? Figures close to about 4.5 to 5 trillion. Me, I've not seen any new road. You know, we need to speak about these things.
But on a plan.
So people are telling us.
Wana plan.
Planning what?
Wana plan kujenga barabara kutoka hapa hadi Mombasa.
So you want to tell me, do you want to tell me that 4.5 trillion is still there at the disposal? It's nowhere to be seen. It's nowhere to be seen. And some of them will say they were borrowing to pay other debts. So let me ask you, when I borrow to pay a debt, I'm still at debt. I have not solved. I've not solved the solution. That's why I'm saying, as a country, we need to understand the real causes of our country. And whatever I speak and whatever I'm saying is for the good of our children, not us.
Yeah.
I've repeated, I told you, Kevo, me and you can even go to that Haiti and fight, and we'll survive. But what about
our kids? Manze?
You know? What about our kids? We come from a school of thought where we were told our forefathers fought and shed blood for us to have this beautiful country. What are we sacrificing for Kenya? Kenyans seem comfortable, but we are leaving our kids in hell. I'm telling you.
All right, hold
And
it
we
right
need
there.
to have these discussions.
Yeah, we do.
Yes.
Honorable Steve Mbogo, that is. Unaweza piga simu by them guys, 0719012700. It's all about the MVP report. Tumeangalia some of the top stories making headlines in the country. Of course, it's one of them ni ile trip yenye Prezo alienda South Korea for the South Korea Africa Summit. And he's also heading to Italy on Friday. Ukiangalia kwa the Standard, they're saying Uhuru turns to God in Ruto money fight. Asking God to save us all, former president says he has been forced to foot his bills contrary to the law. He wonders why State House has not remitted money to his office, yet it is in the budget. Hey, sawa tu. Anyway, we'll touch on that in a bit, Mesh. Alafu focus now on flood effects in mini budget. Macron big gamble on snap falls. Secondary schools to lose 20 billion shillings thanks to CBC. Reject punitive taxes. Hustlers plead with MPs. Daily Nation, Kev?
Inasema, where is Uhuru 1.1 billion funding? Ofisi yake juu ajaipe maganjiri.
Ulicheki vile Kanzedena amejam. Salo je kwa kicheck-in.
Walai. Wala vile tulimbonga last time nini. Kumbe ameenda bila kabag.
Bra, you know she's still in that office. Amejam.
Pole sana madam. Wanalia budget. Mr. Kenyatta office was allocated 655 million and 543 million in the 22-23 and 23-24 fiscal years respectively.
Yes.
Hiyo ganja jawai. Office retired president has declined to take up Nyeri office that was used by the late President Kibaki.
Right.
Inaniletea shangwe sana.
Wonder why he has declined.
Former head of state say he's using old fleets and has to meet fuel maintenance costs.
Damn.
Mi nashanga. Ujisi wanga tu hapa na sija tushetangi. Lakini wamefinywa. Wameanza kunotice ni kugwang. Alafu security. Claims former first lady Mama Ngina security detail was recalled and never reinstated. Now, unashindwa hadi hii beef voking. Hii beef ya our former president na sahi nani Ruto itaja ishaji. Na kama itaisha sisi natukostaji. Na hata kama inatukos sisi vijana ambao tunawochi noma. Tunataka kujitoa kwa inomaji ama lazima tuchukue sides.
Alafu pia cheki the OGS office of the government spokesperson led by Isaac Maura. Ilisema that the government has diligently been paying the salaries of retired President Uhuru Kenyatta and his allowances, including those of his staff. In a statement, government spokesperson Isaac Maura said, State House also maintains and fuels all of Uhuru's 14 vehicles and facilitates his local and foreign travel. I mean,
najeka nini, lakini hajatuwekea nini hapo. So gani mimi nakwambia hizi ni stories za jaba. Uhuru amesema hivyo, si mtu hizo mapepa. Si mtu ndio hizi. Steve Mbogo tulikutumia dingo, unasema tu kulipa dinga zako nini, si ndio hizi tunaoneshana. Because now whatever the OGS anafanya ni ku retaliate.
Yeah, of course.
Asana counter-attack.
He's doing his thing, yeah.
Steve alisema hivi, sasa mimi sinasema hivi.
Steve, what do you think about all this thing? Because hey, man, I mean, who's saying the truth?
No, you know, I began by saying whatever the leader of the day portrays to the nation, that will be the impact.
Eish.
On a personal stand, I say Uhuru should not complain. He's the leader who started this lawlessness in this country. So he should not complain when he's being treated like that.
But Moi was not treated badly. Kibaki was not treated badly.
Of course, but he started...
Why Uhuru?
He created the attitude and notion of lawlessness where courts will give orders and he will say, I don't care.
Yeah.
You know, it starts with a small thing. And that is why today there's no even respect for him. Because he made the leaders below him believe that it's about supremacy battle. We are fighting.
Yeah.
So today it is the KK government flexing muscle.
Damn.
And let me guarantee you, when another government will come in fact, I think it will be worse. They'll even send Ruto to jail. I'm telling you the truth.
That's what Umtata also said.
Yes, no, it's the reality. Because you've set a trend. You see, humans behave in relation to the surrounding and the activities around them. So today, it's a politics of witch hunt and revenge. So any other person who will come in, not unless these habits change, they will also come in and revenge.
Hey.
And that is the pure truth.
Yeah.
And we need to think as a country, what image, what picture are we showing to the younger generation? Talk even about young leaders. The young leaders of today are the ones being used now to abuse other leaders in this country. There is no morality even in politics. When you are growing up, let me tell you, you will not see those kind of things. So let me ask you, these young leaders, for example, you're talking of OGS, if tomorrow is given, now we give him the mandate to be president with that attitude, what is the worst he can do to people?
I can imagine.
You know, we have to speak about these things. So our time has come, and I love what is happening in Kenya. You know, the good thing is we live in the information era. So Kenyans are watching. Kenyans are watching. Our bit as patriots of this country is just to tell Kenyans, keep watching and make the right decision.
Yeah.
The politics of sycophancy or tribal politics being segregated in political cocoons and movements is over. And we're going to tell Kenyans, we have to shun from that kind of politics.
All right. As we wrap up this conversation, Honorable Steve Mbogo, ukiangalia hapo hivyo, the front page of the Standard, they're talking about hustlers are pleading with MPs, tafadhalini reject your story, our finance bill. On the final day of submissions and public hearings characterized by heckling and criticisms, Kenyans have asked the Committee on Finance to have the Parliament amend what they feel would make their lives worse off. Are Kenyans on their own? Can they trust their MPs? How can we ensure that our MPs are effective when it comes to a big conversation kama hii finance bill?
You see, that's a difficult question. You cannot ask me to trust people who are not independent. We lack independent thinking in Parliament today. This Kenya Kwanza government has proven that the executive is in total control of the assemblies. So you cannot expect them to be independent in their thinking. I have a very good relationship with the political cycles. And when I sit with them, I'll tell you out of 10, 8 to 9 are not happy with this finance bill. To begin with the origin of this finance bill and the budgets. Today, rumor has it that the entire finance bill and the budgets are drafted by the IMF and the World Bank.
Yeah, I heard that too.
I told you, when people are planning to build back better, first they have to destroy what is in existence. And that's why you cannot understand how the budgets and the proposals for the finance bill are too expensive than what we can create. You know, we are living a lie as a country where our expenses are more than our income. Why do we need a 4 trillion budget to begin with? Of which, you know, a majority percentage is already budgeted corruption.
The most expensive budget in Kenya's history.
Yes. So why do we need it at a time where we in ourselves understand that we cannot meet? Today you're told even the Kenya Revenue Authority is not able to meet its target.
Yeah,
it's shortfall of about 350 billion.
That's crazy.
We've reached what we call the Laffer curve.
Why are people not motivated to pay taxes?
It's not about motivation. Umefika mwisho. You cannot tax me more than...
There's nothing to tax.
There's nothing. That's what we call the Laffer curve.
Okay.
We've reached that point. And that's why the finance bill is proposing now to come for your assets. You see, the simple rule or law of taxation is you tax income. You don't tax assets.
Assets, yeah.
You tax what I'm earning. You're not supposed to tax what I own. But you see, now they've come for us. Why? Because we are the sovereign. Kenyans will understand that we are the sovereign. When the government cannot meet its economic obligation, it has to come to us.
Finance bill, if it goes through, what are we left with? How do we approach this thing now? This whole Kenyan project, this life of ours. What do we do?
You see, for Kenya, let me tell you, the only thing we need to do is just tighten our belt for the next 3 years and make proper decisions in the next 3 years. Because there's nothing much. We just have to speak to our fellow citizens and tell them and educate them on matters good leadership.
It's true.
Because we've seen, you know, the good thing I told you, we live in the information era. Not once or twice, even the head of state. He has stood in podiums and said, any MP from Kenya Kwanza who will reject or object this finance bill, I want to see those ones who will vote against it. So they are scared. It's politics of blackmail. And the worst thing is majority of our leaders in parliament are money oriented. They got the right jobs. We got the right jobs, the wrong people to do the right jobs. Majority of them went there as a career. So it's all about money. Money is changing hands in that house like no one's business. It's not about ethics, morals, or service to the people anymore. So we have a problem as a country, and that's why we need to speak about these things.
And that's what I was asking Steve tukiwa tu hapo.
Yes.
Hatuwezi vile tumesema like we have to protect our bail for 3 years blah blah blah. Why can't we start something like now? Tuseme Stephen Mbogo anaenda kwa koti anasema for once wacheni tuanze kesi ya kwa nini power ya president inafaa ibadilishwe, ndio ikifika president miaka 2-3 fila tuwezi tunaweza tafuta ma signature.
Hasn't Omtata tried to fight these things in court alone?
Of course, yeah.
And Kenyans don't even appreciate what he's doing.
May think one notice ni civic education.
And the people now who are supposed to help us or save us, the leaders of opposition, today they're in bed with the government.
It's true.
So Kenyans wanachezwa both sides, both in government and opposition, and we have to speak about these things.
Honorable Steve Mbogo, asante sana.
Yes.
It's been real.
Thank you.
So much knowledge, too much value. Niko sure Kenya wamejijenga mazi. We really appreciate it. Asante sana for everyone who's joined us in this conversation hapa hivyo kwa MVP Report. Once again, it's been Honorable Steve Mbogo.
More vibes we play at 24/7 on Vibes Radio.